This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to bring you a conversation with Demonaz from Immortal. Now the catalyst for this chat is due to the launch of a new album from Immortal for 2023. It'll be released May 25th and it is called War Against All. Throughout this conversation, of course, we talk all about the album, but I ask him some questions based on the history that sounds like is embedded through some of these tunes because, it turns out they're from way back in the day, which is a great thing, as you will hear. So yes, we focused on discussing this album because it's worth it. Didn't ask any questions about Abbott because Demonaz covered that topic so succinctly in the other chat that is easily available. Find it here on YouTube or Spotify, wherever my interviews are found. Now, I've got a tune to share for all of the listeners on the podcast apps. This one is called War Guide for all of you good people on YouTube. You know the drill, I can't play music. Either way, we'll get into the chat after the tune. If you're listening via the podcast apps, and for all of you YouTubers, let's cut to the conversation right now. Let's go. Greetings. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm going to turn off the picture. Sorry, okay?
No, that's fine. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you're comfortable doing. No worries at all.
It's just because it was misused before, when people put it on the internet. And it's nothing about you or anybody else, but it's just the rules we play by because, I don't want to be misused on the net all the time. It's been a problem.
Has it been? Yeah. We had a chat, gosh, you might recall actually, because I know you don't do a heap of interviews, but we had a conversation a couple of years ago where I shared with you that I used to listen to Storming Through Red Clouds and Holocaust Winds as my music to get warmed up to go out into the city and try to pick up women. I don't know whether that rings a bell for you.
Yeah. I remember that. It's a bit funny, yeah.
Yeah, I still remember those days, mate. They make me chuckle, mate, believe me. But if it didn't, God damn it, it worked. You do what works, and that worked.
Of course.
Yeah. How have you, just on that note, you've mentioned something there up top about the words you used were misuse, your imagery or what have you, or the video. Have you found the conversations or the interviews, more to the point, a bit challenging this time around?
No, it's all right, but it's like all the time, on the net, people don't tell me. I guess this goes for a lot of bands, but it's like you talk to some guys and they put everything out on the audio or whatever, and they thought it was a print. Right. It's like if you put a picture or a line or anything on the internet. You don't owe it anymore, It's like anybody can do whatever they want with it, and put it in some kind of trouble for you, or it's so lot. And with Immortal, there was a lot of misinformation, It's like all of those things with the members leaving, and there was always like a lot of information that was not right, and of course a lot of it was right, but a lot of it was not right. So the fans got very confused, I think.
Yeah, you gave me. I'm not going to ask a question about Abbott, by the way, because you answered. I only had one question before, actually, I think about it, but you answered it so beautifully and so concisely that I think the episode that I released based on our chat last time has become the go-to for anybody who wants to find out about your thoughts and feelings about your relationship with Abbott, which I know is okay. And you expressed that really well then. So the fact that Blabbermouth keep on picking up on it, look, you know what Blabbermouth and these Metal Injection and these other sites are about. They're about making money from clickbait. So it's manna from heaven for them to manipulate a headline, if you like.
Anyway, it's like members come and go, in a long-lasting band, and members will come and go, and it's just the way it is. So, and it was also like the last time he was on an album was in 2008 or 2009. It's pretty long time since we made anything together. So I think Also, people want Bon Scott back in AC/DC, but he's dead, right? So it's like I think it will always be like that with bands when you change members.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, on that point there. And look, I've been a long time fan of the band since the early '90s, which is about as long as you can be a fan of the group in Australia. Certainly, I go back to Pure Holocaust. That was the album that I got out. I think it was even in market then. And of course, Blizzard Beasts. And they were albums that I listened to hundreds of times a piece. Even your first album I got right into as well. But it's really good to have you back for a second time around, because I feel like the band has been reborn with you out front. I think that's the right way to frame it. And this new album, yeah, well, look, this new album, man, I think it's even better than Northern Chaos Gods in that you've mixed more of the dynamic, which makes Immortal. And that's not saying Northern Chaos Gods wasn't a good album, great album, made my year-end list in my top 10, I think. But this one, I mentioned last time that Northern Chaos Gods sounded like a successor to Blizzard Beast, which I believe you'd heard before. Now, here's my comparison with War Against All. Very strong album, which warrants a comparison against Battles in the North. And why do I say that? You've got a couple of songs on there that sound like sequels to some of the songs on Battles in the North, and I'm talking about Nordlandh, or Northlander, I think it might be in English, but Blashrykh and My Throne too, which is my favourite song that you've probably ever written thus far. So do you agree with some of my comments there?
Yeah, two of those songs, actually the Immortal song was written at the time of 95, 96, 94.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure. I found a lyric when I moved to the mountain, which, by the way, 5 years ago, I moved to the Hardanger. It is a place where there is winter all year through. You can see the snow on the mountaintops all the year through. And it was a long time dream to have a house by the mountains. And I bought a house at the foot of the glaciers. So it's like Blashrykh, it's like it's the perfect place to live. And there's a wilderness here, and from my house, there is no houses nearby, in a long area. So for some miles, and it's outstanding. So for me, it's like when I came there, I found all the old material when I moved. A lot of lyrics from the 90s, a lot of notes, a lot of riff tapes. And the Immortal song was one of them. It could easily have been on the Battles in the North, that track. And of course, some of the other material as well. It's like when I write riffs and lyrics, it becomes one thing. It becomes Immortal music, right? So I always try to go back, no matter. Every time when me and Abbat also co-wrote songs, I was the one to go back and see, let's not forget about what we started, and he too. But it's like, for me, that is the main thing. Number one priority is to keep the expression, because it's not that I don't want to explore new territories or anything, but normally I don't feel for that. Normally everything is based on the riffs. It's like guitar is the main instrument in Immortal, and the guitar riffs that is what everything is based on.
Indeed, yeah. Well, another comparison I'll make is that War God reminds me a lot of Tyrants. So is that inspired by that song in particular, or something else?
No, it was really, there were several of those riffs, It actually came from two places. When me and Abbat wrote Sons of Northern Darkness, there was like, Celtic Frost, 2 Megatherion, always been like one of the most important albums, lyrically, especially for the lyrics, and also that heaviness, those slow songs, and they were developing into maybe some faster tempo in the end. They build it slowly, and both Tyrants and War God has the same kind of opening, but it's like War God is different in the tempo. Tyrants is a more slow song all the way. It doesn't have that up tempo. while his War God is more like a Celtic Frost, you could say the Tyrants was more like maybe Led Zeppelin, Kashmir or something, you know?
Sure.
Like those riffs also, when we wrote the songs on Souls of Not in Darkness, I remember Kashmir was one of those songs we were listening to at the time.
Nice.
And when I wrote War God, the lyric was actually from that time.
Oh, wow.
The lyric for War God was actually from, I can't put a tag on it, the year, but it was an early lyric, you know. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I think fans, look, I'm an old fan, as I've mentioned, and I really appreciate that you're mining content that didn't make previous albums for whatever reason, and you're able to put a modern spin on it. And I think that keeps everything, so two things, it keeps everything traditional and in the vein of what you've always been doing, but it keeps things modern as well.
But I always, I never make so much plans, you know. Music for me comes from the stomach, you know. It comes from the heart, you know. It's like when you sit down making riffs or playing and you enjoy it, and there comes a riff here and there, and suddenly you have like, my plan is never to write a song. My plan is always to have an album, you know. It's like from the first riff to the last riff, it's an album. So when you sit down and do those riffs and everything, it's like when you have a song, you will put a lyric on it, or sometimes I write lyrics when I'm inspired. You know, I sit down and I write on maybe 4 or 5 songs. But I always try to look for old stuff. You know, I always try to look for old riff tapes or old lyrics, or to make them inspire me. Or because when I write a whole album, it's only like 10% that comes on the album, you know. It's like 90% of what you're writing is on some notes everywhere in your house. So it's like, yeah.
Have you ever thought of
it's good to bring up a lot of the old stuff then, of course, because whatever old thing that inspires me is the best, you know. I really have a hard time with being inspired in these times by new music or new books or new movies, you know. It's like you always go back in a way, but it's that's how it is.
Yep, fantastic stuff. Yeah, it's the first thing I noticed was how traditional the album sounded, but you got this modern production, and it's just great having you at the head of the band and actually playing on all of the tracks too, because that authenticity just comes all the way through it. So here's a question for you. Did you end up recording all of the guitars and basses again, and who did you draft in for the percussion?
Isedale from Enslaved, he's the producer. He also played he played bass on the album.
Okay.
And he brought in this, he came with a suggestion, which was Kevin Crawler, a drummer from, he lives 2 hours from me or something, and I thought he was the right person to do it. You know, we did some demos. Me and Isedale did some demos of the songs with guitar and bass, and then we sent them to Kevin, and he practiced on that and came back with the drums on the demos, and I was convinced. You know, I was sure he will have to do it, and we met up in Bergen, rehearsed for the album, and then we just recorded everything. So it was like, I had everything planned, almost every hit, you know.
Yeah,
but it's like,
I can imagine
on the drums. But I let him play, you know. Like when he knew the songs, I just let him play and do whatever he wanted to do. And we had go back and forth sometimes, and then it was all right. He understood it, you know. He was like a long time Immortal fan too, so he understood the playing, and he was very inspired by Immortal for the drumming and from before. So yeah, it was it came out just the way I wanted it.
I think I can hear that. Yeah, it sounds like a very complete album for you, and that's what I mean. That I don't mean that it's an improvement on Northern Chaos Gods. I don't mean it that way, but I think it sounds more Demonaz. It sounds like more of your vision for the band. Would you agree?
I think both those albums are to me, they are of course different, but for me it's like all of my songs are like babies. So I really like Northern Chaos Gods. I think that was a necessary album. I think it was the perfect album for that time, for what happened with the band, to reestablish, go back, and keep the fans loyal in a way, if you know what I mean. Like, I've always been doing this for myself, of course, but I also think a lot about Immortal loyal fans, what they are, and how I always listen to them. You know, when somebody, some fan or somebody that a long time fan would say something to me, I will always listen. You know, it's like no matter if it would change anything, but it's like I like to listen to that. You know, it's like because it gives me inspiration and motivation to work with it.
Yeah, that's great. So you're not going to go on the direction. I mean, this is as a serious point, but Ulver and those bands who started becoming electronic, or Anathema who became a prog band and the like, it's just not something that's in your wheelhouse, I take it.
I think that without saying a wrong thing, it's like after Also Fall, you know, it's very easy to be on the other side and say you should bring this member back and this thing back. You know, we tried it all before. You know, I tried everything with that. It didn't work out. You know, so that is one of the issues. The other one is like the fans want fast songs. You know, they want intense music. They want uncompromising music, and I want that too. So for me, it's like a no-brainer. I don't want progressive music, you know. I don't want Immortal to end up like some, trying to sound like something else or trying to move in a new direction, you know. If they want that, they go to another band, listen to something else, because Immortal is all about keeping the true expression of what was started once. And I believe that re-establishing Immortal with the Northern Coast, Gods and War Against All, I think we're back on the right track now. It's like the band is instantly recognized when you listen to it. I think all the response I got was like, 2 seconds and it's immediately Immortal. And I think that is like the best I can hear. So the spirit was not there, you know. After Also Fall, the true Immortal spirit, it was gone, you know. And it was all about compromising. The band got popular. Everybody wants a piece of you. And suddenly the other members maybe want to do something else than you. And I didn't want to destroy the band, you know. I was always like, no, we have to go back to what's the original expression in a way. And it's like, that is why there is not like 20 riffs on every song, you know. It's more like insisting music. It's more like, maybe more like punk, you know. It's insisting, trying to keep the listener in the right mood for the song instead of experimenting too much, you know. So that is the old way of writing songs, and that is how I want to do it.
Yeah, you're so right on a couple of points there. As an old fan, it was seeing you guys get popular and seeing little girls wear Immortal t-shirts and the like. It just felt wrong, didn't it? It just was weird seeing it. It's like, how do you understand the lyrical themes and how powerful and how potent this music is? Like it's not Marilyn Manson, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be like disappointed if a lot of people like the band, but it should be on the right terms in a way. It's like the music first, and then everything else after. So I felt it was like, I didn't feel it was a good thing, you know, that Immortal would be popular, big band that everybody would like, just because we changed or moved in another direction. You know, I want to keep in control with what we are doing on the musical side. So a re-establishment for me was like this now, and the next album even darker.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, great. Yeah. You had your moment, and I know there were other things going on. You discussed that during our last chat with Damned in Black, but you're right. The spirit didn't feel like it was there, but it certainly is now 24 years later. Can you believe it? 24 years later, after Damned in Black was released, that's where we're at, or 23, year 2099. But here's the other point I want to make, and I know you know this because it comes up in a lot of conversations online about the band, but people would love to see you play live again.
Yeah, of course. They always ask for that, and since there was it was like, it wasn't 5 years since it didn't take 5 years to write this album. I'll just explain you. It took maybe 1.5 years. The reason was the pandemic. I was in and out of the studio. There was trouble. I had to wait a lot of time. Also, there was the master was finished in 21.
Oh wow!
November 18th of November 21 was the master from the studio finished.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why it wasn't there was some disagreements, of course, and there was also the problem with the pandemic, and also with the vinyls. Everybody did an album. Every goddamn band went to studio to record an album under the pandemic, and suddenly there was a long queue to get the release. And there was some vinyl fabrics that was stopped producing. So I was offered to release the album last year in 22, but then without vinyls. And then I said, no, okay, let's wait. So even if it takes a year or two, I will wait, because I don't want to release an Immortal album without vinyls, So that is the main reason why I had to wait for an extra year.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and
again, for the live situation, like you asked me, we haven't come that far yet, because the other guys have been busy with their bands with things that were scheduled. But we're gonna have a meeting in May, in the end of May in Bergen. We're gonna have a meeting with the management. So we will discuss the future then. But it's and it's too late to book any shows this year. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about the prospect of playing live? Because it must be quite a few years for you now.
I don't think that will be a problem. I just think we have to do a proper job with rehearsing up front, and maybe do a show in Norway somewhere just to premiere. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Again, we spoke about this last time, and you gave me a snapshot of how you're feeling about your tendonitis, or the effects of the tendonitis you had decades ago. But I understand from that conversation that you're completely healed now, so there's no real obstacle to you getting out there and playing again. Is that correct? Is that still the case?
I think my guitar work on Nothing Kills God and Morgenstern should be enough proof.
Very true. Yeah, very true, mate. Yeah. Gotcha. Did you? I mean, obviously I've listened to the album, as you can tell, but in terms of your technique, you certainly had the fastest technique very early on. There were no bands that sounded like Immortal with the speed that you came up with, that you conjured back then. But do you get asked by more established musicians about your technique so they can learn from you and they can sort of establish or integrate that speed that is your trademark?
I went to this guitar teacher in I don't remember when it was. It was like in 95, maybe 94, 95. And he was a Norwegian, very talented guitarist. He was working with names as Joe Satriani and those guys in California, and he was a really, really talented guitarist. And he was also a teacher at some academy in the United States. And I knew him a little because he was one of my neighbors. So I asked him if he could learn me some sweeping techniques. And he did. He learned me some techniques for the soloing. But when I showed him Immortal riffs, he couldn't do it at all. He could do everything, but he couldn't do that same picking or the same technique that I had developed from the band. And he was like, you got to teach me that, And I was like, hey, I came here. I'm actually paying you to teach me to play some just bonding a bit, And it was like, there was only a few times I was there, but anyway, he told me that technique is fucking crazy, and I really admire you. He told me that, and I was like, all right, thank you very much. But it's like, I think it was developed because my interest in guitar work from Tony Iommi and James Hetfield they are very like Tony Iommi play very slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he had an atmosphere and some kind of signature on his playing that James Hetfield picked up, and as a rhythm guitarist on the first on Kill 'Em All, there was this like picking technique which was very special, and I saw that live with them. James Hetfield had a certain way of picking, and I thought, it's easy to do it. It's not a problem. And for maybe a year or two, I was like working very hard with this technique. And I also think that I could play very fast from before with the picking. And like Albert said, I've never seen anybody pick as fast as you do. So maybe that's a talent. I don't know. It's like it came very natural for me to do it. Just riff very fast,
Oh yeah, it's the trademark. It's your sound. It's the ethos, if you like, the philosophy, the technical philosophy behind your sound.
Yeah, but it's like, and a lot of people ask me what is the Immortal sound? The Immortal sound is not a special sound. It's the way you play, the way me and Albert play it in a way. It's like he also, I also learned him a lot of playing on guitar, and he learned me things. We like both ways. When we were working with Immortal on the early days, we would have one guitar or two, and we would sit and just write songs. So it's like, and show each other techniques
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've got more questions to ask, believe me, but I know you've got to get to the next one in a minute's time. But look, it's been great the second time around chatting to you, mate. I look forward to these conversations, believe me. So I look forward to the next one. But thank you very much for your time on this one here. Great album. I'm a fan. Love to see you down here in Australia too sometime soon.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get good questions from people who know the band, right? So it's much easier to talk, It's like if you get like those newspapers who don't know shit about your albums, they just have some. Sometimes we just told them to fuck off,
Yeah, those questions like, "Hey, Demonaz, what is black metal?" Those stupid idiot fucking questions that go out there, and it's ridiculous. But no, you are a legend of our favorite. You're a legend of the extreme metal genre. You're one of the originators, and you're one of those people that people look up to. So I hope you get that and feedback in more interviews this time around, mate.
Yeah, of course. It's like. It's been really, really motivating to do the interviews because there was so much good feedback and people seem to be like very interested in the band and interested in the music and it's been really, really nice.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks very much for your time again, mate. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. A chat with Demonaz. Always a pleasure to talk to him. I'd love to have a beer with him at some point, as a matter of fact, because I think once you get behind that very stoic veneer that he has, I'm sure he's got a hell of a story to tell. I should have asked him, actually, but we just ran out of time when the book was coming out, because I love asking that question to you. All you long-time listeners will know I like asking that because I write books, and hey, if I can help in any way, Demonaz, if you ever listen to this, hit me up because, you have a story worth telling. Now then, if you enjoyed that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And if you like listening, maybe you like reading because I've written a book, click the link in the banner on the website and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. And if you download a sample and then complete the purchase, do hit me up because I want to thank you personally. I've got some more information about the book coming up, but before we get to that, I need to bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Cold Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.